Okay, today we're going to continue our lesson about energy. If you still remember, we mentioned before that energy is the ability to do any work. Okay, it's the ability to do any work. As you notice in the following figures, it's not only for living things, also non-living things, they need energy in order to do work. There are many forms of energy. There are many forms of energy. Some of these forms are thermal energy, which is the heat energy, elastic energy, when you are going to able to stretch something, sound energy, light energy, kinetic energy, which is the energy of motion, and electrical energy. These are some forms of energy. There are more for sure, but we are not responsible for all of them. As you notice in the following figures, these are examples about the thermal or heat energy. As here we have forms of or examples of light energy. In the following slides, these are examples of the sound energy, and these are electrical energy. The following figures show kinetic energy, which is the energy of motion. As you notice, the boy, the bird, the car, all of them are in motion. That's why we call it kinetic energy, which is the energy of motion. Okay. Another form of energy is the elastic energy. It is anything that you can stretch, make it longer. Also, we mentioned, girls, that energy can be transformed from one form into another form. We started with this before, but we're going to continue it today, inshallah. The energy transformation means when energy is transformed from its input energy to the output energy, means that the form of energy that is used is it going to be transformed into another form. Okay, like in the following example, the input energy is the energy needed to work. The energy needed to let the TV works is the electrical energy. When I turn it on, this input energy is going to change to light, heat, and sound energy. These are the output energy, which is the energy released after working. So, girls, let's differentiate between the input energy and the output energy. The input energy is the energy needed to start working or to do the work, while the output energy is the energy released after working. As in the following example, as you notice over here, the TV needs electrical energy. So electrical energy is the input energy. But when it works, it releases light energy, heat energy, and sound energy. These are the three forms of energy released. They are called the output energy. So, again, input energy is the energy needed to work, while output energy is the energy released after working. Okay? Transformation of energy is when the input energy is going to change to another form. As you notice in the following example, here I have the speaker or the speakers. The input energy of the speaker is what? Is electrical energy. What electrical energy? I mean input energy, the energy that is needed to let it works. While when it works, the output energy is going to be the sound of energy. Look, here's how the energy is transformed from electrical energy into sound energy when it turns on or when it works. So here, the input energy, which is the energy needed to do the work, is the electric energy. The output energy, which is released after working, is the sound energy. Another example here, the input energy is the elastic energy. When it works, the output energy is the kinetic energy, which is the energy of motion. Look, girls, at the figures in front of you. Here, input energy is the elastic energy because I stretched it out. When I released it, the energy released is what is the energy of motion, and the energy of motion we agreed is called the kinetic energy. So the transformation here is that the input energy which is needed to do the work, and it's the elastic energy, when it works it transforms into kinetic energy, which is the energy of motion. So again, I need to remind you about this. Transformation of energy means when the input energy is transformed into another form of energy, which is the output energy. Now, another example, as you notice here, the fan, when it needs to work, I need the electric energy. Okay? When it works, it starts to move. The energy of motion is called what? The kinetic energy. So here, the electric energy, which is needed to start working, is transformed into kinetic energy when the fan works. Again, the input energy is the energy that is needed to do work, while the output energy is the energy released after working. The fan needs electricity, so it has electric energy, but when it works, it starts to move. It starts to move. Energy of motion is called kinetic energy. So the input energy, which is the electric energy, it transforms into kinetic energy, which is the energy of motion. Another example, as you notice here, to turn the light on, I need the batteries. Here in this example, we need the batteries. The batteries gives us chemical or electrical energy. Chemical energy transforms to electrical energy. When I turn the light bulb on, this electrical energy changes into light energy. Okay, again, I need to focus on this example. Batteries give us chemical energy. When we combine them to the wires, as you see in the following example, this chemical energy, I have two transformation over here. The chemical energy from the batteries changes to electrical energy. When the electrical energy I use it to turn the light bulb on, this electrical energy is going to transform into light energy. Okay, another example. Here, as you notice, the input energy is the electrical energy. When I turn it on, it changes or it transforms into thermal energy or heat energy. Thermal energy is the same as heat energy. So again, girl, transformation of energy is when the input energy is transformed into another form of energy, which is the output energy. Here, the input energy is the energy needed to do work. Output energy is the energy released after working. So, again, just to sum up the ideas, energy is the ability to do work or cause a change. Energy has many forms, okay? Some of these forms are elastic energy, thermal energy, light energy, sound energy, kinetic energy. These are some forms of energy. We have more and more. Energy can be transformed from one object to another. This is one is the energy transformation is one energy changes from one form into another, as we notice in the following. Energy transformation means that the input energy will change or transform into a different form. The input energy is the energy needed to do work, while the output energy is the energy released after working. We notice in the previous examples that energy was transformed from one form into another. This is what we mean by transformation of energy.